Hey, good morning to Awakenings Within. I'm Sandy Archer, and you are
Bob Scott, the one and only.
welcome to the show. How is everybody?
Well, I
Tell me
think
in the
people are
comments.
wondering where you went. You disappeared off the air for a week and a half.
Oh, I came on last Monday.
Oh, you did?
I did
It
for a
was
brief
me
moment.
that disappeared then.
It was you that disappeared.
Okay.
I came on last Monday for about 10 minutes or
Ooh.
so. And hey, good morning, Larry. Good to see you. There's Larry Schneider.
You lasted 10 minutes without me?
Yeah, maybe 17.
Oh, 17
to be specific.
Ooh, okay.
Then I got tired of talking to myself.
Okay.
I was like, I can't do this. So
Yeah,
good morning,
sorry.
Mugs Up.
Sorry I abandoned you.
You did. You abandoned me.
Yeah.
So
there are
my
other
Sandy
things.
cup.
Oh, I got a different one just for you today.
Oh, yay. It looks like Colorado still.
Well,
good morning.
it could be Colorado, but it's a different style.
It's a different style. What are you guys drinking? Hey, I know what Mark is drinking. Diet Mountain Dew. Good to see you again, Mark. And Larry, a whole 10 minutes. I know. I don't know. I couldn't talk to myself long. I got used to talking to you to where I couldn't talk to myself anymore.
I see.
It's terrible. Plus, I was coming off of vacation.
You said you were kind of wore out this morning. I had grandsons over this weekend, so I'm sort of in the same boat, you know.
They take a lot of energy, don't they?
Well, these two are 7 and 9, and I, you know, it's my fault because when they were little, I started out, you know, with this idea of going on adventures.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but they were too little, so they couldn't say the word adventure, so everything was a venture. So they would come to Papa's house and go, "Papa, are we going on a venture?"
Aww.
And so we did lots of ventures. So I would do crazy things, like I would go buy pyrite, which is, you know, fake gold, and throw it in the stones in the driveway, and then tell them some tale about how, you know, years ago, you know, people that traveled across the country, you know, every once in a while would find gold, you know, and their little eyes would get really big, you know, and I'd go, I bet you if you go over there by all those stones, you might find some. And of course, they go over there. It was so cute. And they would just get so, Papa, look, I found some gold, you know.
That is awesome. That's
so
a good
anyway,
grandpa.
One of my grandsons turned 2. So we had a big birthday party. Well, the 2 older cousins were like, okay, Papa, we want to go on an adventure. So I took them down to the Missouri River, because they're in this age right now where everything's about dinosaurs and fossils.
Oh, okay.
So we went fossil hunting, and then, of course, Mom killed me because I came back, you know, with a whole plastic bag, grocery, you know, one of those little bags you get at the grocery store, filled with fossils and rocks, you know. But they were happy, you know. The little guys were just like, Mom, look, we found fossils.
Oh no. So you're
like, thanks, Dad.
You're in trouble.
Mother's Day, you know, you're bringing me rocks.
Yeah. So Mother's Day. Mother's Day is mixed bag. You know,
yeah.
Mother's Day can be a mixed bag for mothers. It depends on what your relationship is with your children and what your relationship is with your mother, right? So
that's true.
So it can be a mixed bag. So some people don't deal with it well. And I'm the some people.
I see.
So my sons did really well. They called me early, and they called me on a group video, which was awesome. You know, and listen, Matt wants to know, how long do you think these fossils been in the ground? Matt would want to know how long.
Okay. I have no idea, but I was shocked because we found whole. You know, like those little clam shells, but they were like fossilized, like they'd been turned to stone, but they were in the rock. And then we found some leaf imprints, you know,
I love
or
it.
shell imprints, but I couldn't believe we were finding, you know, fossilized shells. So I had to be in the millions of years, but
really,
well, I would think so. I don't know how long it takes something to get fossilized. I would think it'd be a long time.
Only takes me a week, apparently.
Okay, to get fossilized. And how many beers?
That only takes me a week. I've been fossilized.
Okay. Well, yeah,
That's
Mother's
a
Day,
new.
you know, it's I would imagine based on what you're saying, it's sort of like a Facebook relational status, complicated.
It's right. It can be. Hi,
Yeah.
good morning, Stephen.
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
Well, I noticed just kind of perusing through my Facebook friends, for some people, I felt bad because they were missing their moms. Like the whole
Right.
Mother's Day thing actually made them aware.
Right. My mom's gone. And
Yeah, my
that's
mom's gone. I don't have a mom to
my
celebrate.
mom's gone. And so what's funny about that is even though I'm a mother, right? Her being gone is the precedent more so than me being the mom. You know, like them celebrating me is very nice and sweet and everything, but for some reason, her not being here trumps that. It's just it's a weird. That's why I say it depends on the person and what, you know. Even as you're being celebrated, your mind is still on your own mother. You know, it's just weird.
Well, you know, I mean, one of the things that you know, I had to discover as I grew older is that often in the same situation, there's diametric emotions. Like there's conflicting emotions in the same situation. You can be sad and happy at the same time. And that's very confusing.
It is.
Because your system, your sort of default setting is I have to be one or the other. Like, you know, it's like I'm either sad or happy, but how can I be both at the same time?
You can. It's crazy. Yeah. And so Matt wants you to carbon date those things. And Stephen, yes, I miss my mom too. I'm sorry that you miss your mom. But that's what I'm saying. And an ex of mine did not recognize that he always had to tell me Happy Mother's Day, even though he wasn't the father of the children. He learned really easy that he had to do that, because if he didn't, he was in trouble. Yeah. So because being a mother of any, I mean, honestly, I say Happy Mother's Day to people that didn't have children but have fur babies, to be honest, because they love their fur babies too. You know, they're mothers to them, and people have adopted children and have other children that are like adopted. I created a new business idea. Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah, so what he's
that's really interesting.
He would go visit, you know.
Oh.
See, I you know, there's a cemetery just down the road from me, and it's it's the old, I think it's Forest Hills or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's just interesting because I like going there in the fall because the trees turn, because they plant maples, you know, in cemeteries, and so it's wonderful. But there's like Confederate soldiers everywhere. Like, you forget Missouri was part of the South, you know. But anyways, there's also a lot of famous people buried there, like mayors and different stuff like that. And I was the same way. I would be interesting, you know, what you know, like
that's a really cool idea.
But you could then put the QR code on, you know, just put your phone up and it would tell you about this person.
Well, Stephen, I hope you copyrighted that, because I just put it up there.
Like,
I hope you copyrighted it, because somebody's going to take your idea. Yeah. Yeah. Because honestly, funny enough, I was just talking about cemeteries yesterday with this couple that I hang out with. They were on the show, the Holmes. I was hanging out with the Holmes yesterday, and that's what I call it.
Not the Holmes.
Hanging out with the Holmes. And he has so much knowledge that it just blows my mind. Like, I just sit there and just listen to all of these things, you know? So anyway, we were talking about cemeteries, and Tennessee Williams is buried in the cemetery where my family is at in St. Louis. And it's a Catholic cemetery, Calvary. And there's generals in there, like you're talking about, Civil War generals. There's all kinds of famous people from St. Louis buried in there, or they're buried next door in the Bellefontaine neighbors. So Bellefontaine is right next to it. And so we would go to visit our Catholic family, then we would go to visit our Protestant family. It's kind of funny. Anyway, they're next door to each other in cemeteries. And we were just talking about, though, I can't go visit right now because there's shootings. So
Yeah,
unfortunately, there's shootings in the cemetery. So I can't
crazy.
even. My uncle
Well,
said, "Don't you dare."
I was out taking a walk not far from where I live, and I see this sign about something Boone. I'm like, huh? Anyway, so you take this little
Andy?
path and you wind all the way around, and there's just one grave all by itself, hidden behind all these trees, and it's Daniel Boone's son.
Oh.
And I had this, I
Where
was
is
sitting there, then I get out my phone, and of course I have to Google it because it's like, what in heaven's name is Daniel Boone's son buried in Kansas City for, right?
Right.
And we're talking 63rd Street. It's down on 63rd Street.
Oh, wow.
63rd and Prospect, right in the corner there. Is it right? Well, at the time that he lived here, that's way out in the country, right?
Right.
Kansas City's right. So I was like, this is really fast, so my brain starts, going back in time and all that. But here's another one that just shocked me. Moriah, which is, I think it's off of Holmes or Warnell, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Walter Cronkite's buried there. Like
What?
the famous news guy.
Walter Cronkite's there?
Now
I gotta go visit. I hate to
Walter Cronkite's buried in Kansas City. That's just crazy.
I'll have to go visit now.
Oh yeah, Mark's cracking us up here with this.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. That's why I put it up there.
But I'm a history buff, right? So
yes.
lest you think I'm a morbid person and
I'm morbid
and like graveyards. It's actually the history.
Well, there's a reason. It's funny. I was talking to Fred about this yesterday. The reason I like cemeteries is because my grandmother would visit. She did the home memorial thing every week. She'd take flowers every single week to all of her family members and put them on the graves. And I recall her telling me that if I didn't, she would haunt me. Anyway, so I was 0 to 5 years old going to a cemetery every week. And so in the Catholic religion, you light candles. So we would go to this convent, light candles, and then go to the cemetery. So anytime I smell that incense or a candle burning, I think of that. I think of every week we memorialized. And so there are all these different tombstones. As a child, you don't understand tombstones, but some of them pique your interest. Like one lady had a baby carriage, one with babies in it. And then one was like the Celtic cross, and one was, angels. There are lots of angels like everywhere. And so as a child, if my grandma took me there for about an hour every day or every week.
Well, it's interesting what you're talking about because what you're actually describing is a significant shift that most of us probably are not even aware of. But you go back even maybe 60, 70 years, that older generation, there was a great focus on the past. In fact, if you go to Africa, many cultures outside of the United States, the ancestors are a huge part of the present. Like, they're right. We've somehow in our Western American culture become very detached from our past.
Right. I like what Andy's asking, by the way.
And so we don't go back and visit the ancestors. You know what I mean? We it's just like they're dead, buried, gone, and we move on.
Right.
Which is actually, from a historical point of view, a really relatively new perspective of life, because for thousands of years people kept the ancestor, going and visiting. I mean, that was a constant thing that people did. I mean, even in the biblical times, the graves where Abraham was buried, Joseph was 400 years before they went back to the land. He was telling his people, take me with you, take my bones,
Right. Yeah, that's why. And so Andy here, do you write one? Yeah, I think I don't know. I think that it's good to write your own, personally. Our very young children would be uncomfortable in cemeteries. I mean, I think it's neat. I feel guilty that I don't, like, when I go to St. Louis, that I can't go because my uncle told me that there's shootings there and I shouldn't go by myself and I could get robbed. So it's like, what do you do? Like, and both my grandmothers are buried there, like 1 block apart. They grew up, my parents grew up a block apart, and now my grandparents are buried a block apart. That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, destroy all memorials. Okay. I mean, I am enthralled about the cemetery. It's kind of a weird thing, right? Like,
Well, it's what's fascinating about it. It's like, I mean, this is, I remember I'm a sociologist, so if you know, when you study a city, it's sort of like studying rings on a tree. You know how when you cut a tree, right?
Yeah. Bob's frozen. Frozen, or I'm frozen.
There we're back.
Okay, there you go.
But you can, it goes back to a certain year, right? Well, it's the same when you drive down. If you start in the city and you look at the homes, the architecture, and you start going south, right? You can see the generations, how people live, right? The architecture. It's like, to me, it's like seeing the rings on a tree, and it's like a circle, so you see these homes, with a single bathroom in the kitchen, and maybe a big house would have been 2,000 square foot to these monstrosities now once you get south of 135th Street, where you've got 4,000 and 5,000 square foot homes.
I know.
Like, people in the 1920s and 1930s couldn't even fathom a place like that.
No. And St. Louis is a good depiction of that. Like, you got your brownstones, you got the big buildings that they called flats at the time, right? They called them flats. So a family had a flat, and usually the whole family lived in it. The whole family, grandparents, parents, children. And, somebody slept in the basement, somebody, and the kids all shared rooms. My ex, who grew up in Toledo, Ohio, they had a 4-bedroom house with 12 children. And children slept in closets and dressers, right? So, that was normal. That wasn't,
well,
that was
when
not
all
abnormal.
the shift came?
Huh?
When the shift came was
60s, probably 60s,
right
70s.
after World War II. So what happens is that all these men come home, right? Through the GI Bill, they all get to go to college. They come out with degrees, and they build this massive industrial complex, right? This massive, the greatest economy, right? But what started to happen for the first time in American history is you took job positions across the country. That was a new thing that happened after World War II. So what happened is families fragmented for the first time in American history, even, right? People ended up, it happened, sometimes people would be explorers and they'd go to Australia or whatever, but that was really rare. It became a common thing to pick up your family and move to get a job.
Right. Wow.
And on mass scale. And so what ended up happening is families sort of fragmented, right?
Yeah.
And then what ended up happening was grandparents who used to live with the family ended up going to Lawrence Welk Village in Temecula, California, or Phoenix, right? It's like, that generation, the World War II generation, they got into this whole thing about retirement, right?
Right.
They didn't want to live with their grandkids. They want to go play golf and live in Florida. You know what I mean?
Which makes sense. Oh, hey, Jason.
Yeah, but what that did, which was sad for me, because where it really, I think, was detrimental, is grandchildren ended up not having the experience
of their grandparents,
of relating to their grandparents who had so much wisdom, So I think I've said this to you before. One of my struggles is if I was self-centered and did what I want to do, I would move to, Jackson Hole, Wyoming, Estes Park, Colorado, right? The
Mhm.
problem is I have 8, and I just found out on Sunday, number 9 grandchild's on its way in October.
Yay.
Well, the problem is if I do what I want to do and go move out there, I disconnect myself from these little people
Aw,
who I care
you
deeply about
can't.
and who, for
Right.
some reason, I have an
Aw.
influence and an authority in their lives that not even their parents have. And
Mm,
and the parents are all keenly aware of it. I'm keenly aware of it, and that makes me responsible with it.
right. Wow.
You see? And so now I start saying to myself, well, wait a minute here, mate, Colorado and the mountains would be nice for my soul, but these little people, they need a
Yeah.
papa.
Well, if my kids were all in one spot, it would make sense for me to be in the one spot. And I
Yeah.
totally get what you're saying. But since I have only one so far, and yeah. So,
Yeah. No, but
so
it'll expand. I mean, it
yeah. And I feel the pull. She's
right.
little right now, so I feel the pull, but we'll see how
But
that all works.
I was not aware of it initially, but I soon discovered that when Papa says something, it means something.
That's
You
were saying you're
so if I look at my
even if the
granddaughter and I
parents don't think
just
you're
say
saying
something kind to her,
right.
I can just see the
Aw.
impact that it has. Like if Papa says it, it's true. Right. If mom and dad say it, well, they're mom and dad. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's sort of, there's this weird authority, not weird, I guess. I guess it's just the stature of age. When Papa says it,
Right.
so I have to be really careful in what I say.
Well, see, I'll be honest. That's why I like to go hang out with the Holmes on the weekend is that they impart such wisdom. And I miss that from my grandparents. My grandparents are no longer here and my mother's no longer here. So it's nice to have that. I didn't realize it was missing from my life until I had this opportunity to go meet them and on all that. And I was like, oh, I want to hang out with them. I really enjoy what they tell me, they were on our show, they're very adventurous and they had really neat careers. Then they're, sing and, there's all these things that they've done that just are so interesting. And they tell you things in a storyline of history, the context of history that was along with what was going on. She was one of the first female physicians, in the 50s. So that's a neat, fact in how we've evolved. Look at how many women physicians there are now. And she was a pioneer in it. So, that's just a really cool way to context everything. And my grandmother, she called our refrigerator an ice box. And one day I remember asking her, Grandma, it's a refrigerator. Why are you calling it an ice box? She's like, well, in my day, that's what they were called. We got a big block of ice, stuck it in there, and that's what you stuck your food in. And then she would tell me about the ironing, to keep them warm at night. They'd have the hot iron that they would put on the fire and then to near their feet, so that their bed would stay warm at night. So, I learned a lot of things from my grandparents and how important that is. And when you're missing that tier, you don't realize how much you're missing it until you're around, older people. And so, not only did my grandmother's teach me to go to the cemetery every week, but she also took me to the nursing home to visit our older relatives. So I got used to being in that environment as well. And, it does teach you a lot. I didn't realize how much information I got from 0 to 5 years old. That was pretty cool.
Well, think this through. It used to be when when the elderly passed away, their casket and body sat in the living room for 3 days.
Yes.
Right. In other words, it wasn't that few. See this? No, but the reason I bring this up is because of the disconnectedness, how disconnected we've become from our past so many things. In the old days, they would bring the body and it would sit in your living room, and your neighbors would, people would come over. You know what I mean? And, in the Irish community, they had professional wailers. Like, they had women who would cry to get you to cry, because they knew that it was healthy to get your emotions out. So, I mean, there was this whole, again, it was this connectedness, this sense of community, right? It was your neighbor, everyone, you just see people coming down the street to come pay their respects, they called it, remember?
Right.
You come pay your respects.
Right.
You'd bring a little something that you made, or flowers or whatever, but it was in the neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are some, and I'm not going to say this to sound racial, but there are ethnic groups that still operate that way. And it just seems like they're still connected to their families. And I envy that. I envy that.
I had the boys down by the riverfront. There was this massive gathering of African Americans, all down there having this, right? And then I see the guy get up, and he's got a golf club, and I'm thinking, like a big driver. And I'm like, what is he doing with the driver down
by the
riverfront, right?
Yeah.
And then I see everybody lining up, and he gets up there, because it was up high, so I couldn't really see what he was going. And then I see him take this swing, and suddenly all this pink smoke goes up in the air and streamers. And I realized that it's a reveal. It's a
reveal,
right?
Yeah.
Like there was like 100 people there
to
watch him find out whether he was going to have a boy or a girl. And I just, there was this thing that went through my heart going, wow, I just love it. It was like, it wasn't just, the couple. It was aunties and uncles and the whole extent of everybody was there to find out. And he was jumping up and down, and she was crying, and everybody was cheering. And I was like, wow, what a moment, But it reminded me about the way God created humanity, that connectedness. Like there's this need for connectedness. And it was so cool to see, this sense of connectedness with this whole community of people over just finding out whether he was going to have a boy or a girl.
That. I love it. See, I think those things are neat. I got to watch one when I was in Little Rock. It was happening at the waterfront in Little Rock. And the whole families were there, and they were having a big party, and we were walking through, and I felt bad. I was like, I'm so sorry we're walking through your party there. And I don't know, we're excited, One
of my things that I love seeing in Kansas City here is every once in a while you'll see a block party. You know what I mean? Where the neighbors, they basically block off a section of the street, right? And because in my world growing up, that was like a common occurrence.
We did that, yes.
I mean, it was like at least once or maybe twice a month on a Saturday or Sunday. All the neighbors were at somebody's house,
Right. It was
not a cycle. Yeah. I don't know. The moms all coordinated it, however whose house it was.
Yes.
But I mean, it's just that the whole idea of living in a neighborhood and being connected to your neighbors.
Let's bring the block party back. That would be awesome.
I remember, one of the shockers for me, you talk about culture, was in 1990 relocating from Kansas City to Southern California, where everybody was from somewhere else. And I was blown away because the people there would press a button, their gate would open, and they would go in behind this thing. And that was it. Like and if you wanted to meet people, you met at a restaurant.
Right.
And I was like, wow, this is so strange. Like nobody there, it's like in Kansas City, you meet somebody and they, come on over, it's like, come on over for lunch, or, and people would bring you into their space. In California, it was like, we each have our own space, and don't you dare come in mine. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, I think Jason's right too. And the last 12 really do miss having a deep connection.
Yeah,
that was the whole reason, for this thing.
Well, sometimes you don't value something until it's taken away from you. It's like you take it for granted, as though, of course, and then you get careless.
Yes.
And
I think we've focused, like you were saying about being self-centered. We focus on those material things, and that we focus on, other things that are not. They don't realize how relationships are the value.
well,
I
in
actually
my
talked about it yesterday myself. It's like I feel, when you're missing your mother on Mother's Day, that
Right.
relationship is what was important. It wasn't that, whatever she had or material stuff. It was her. It was, who she was, and the wisdom that she would impart. I would always think she was aloof, and I realize now that she just didn't want to say what she wanted to say. Like, I'd like, gosh, my mom never says anything, about this or that. I'm asking her answers on this, and she says nothing. And she's like, well, you have to decide that yourself. And so what she was saying is, I don't agree with what you're doing, but I'm not going to tell you that, like I recognize that now, and I miss that, and so us taking people for granted in our lives, it was very front and center for me yesterday.
Well, I watched, my family may not be a case study, but it was sort of eye-opening for me because, my uncles were all World War II guys. They did the whole GI Bill thing.
Yeah.
They all went into the corporate world. They all were presidents or vice presidents. I mean, super successful, like all very wealthy, right? And when retirement came, they all kind of did their, they did that, let's go play golf and all that. And that lasted a few years. And the next thing I know they're all moving back to Chicago within a few blocks of each other because they wanted, it's like, as they were finishing their life, they realized that their relationships as siblings was precious.
Right.
All their achievements, all the money that they had made, all of the things that the world says you're awesome. What really mattered to them was their siblings.
Right.
And and they all moved within probably 5 miles of each other.
Yeah. And funny we're talking about this, and my energy level's been low this week. I'm making a transition of moving away from my family.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's an interesting subject matter that we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Is that's what I've been wrestling with. I've been wrestling this inner wrestling of like, okay, but at the same time, I already know my family members are going to disperse. Like they're all going to do their own things in other parts of the country. So they're not going to stay here in Kansas City. So it's kind of like, I recognize now that we're talking about it, that's what I'm wrestling with.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
actually what I'm wrestling with. I'm not wrestling with what I thought I was wrestling with. I'm actually wrestling with
you think you're wrestling.
You
think you're wrestling with the logistics.
Yeah.
And actually it's deeper than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's one of the other kind of eye-opening human dynamics is realizing how exhausting emotions are. Like when we think of exhausted,
I know
physical exertion. Like I went out there and I ran 10 miles, or I cut the lawn. I mean, I exerted myself physically, therefore I'm exhausted. And then when you haven't exerted yourself physically and you're exhausted, you're like, huh? What's wrong with me?
What's going on?
Realize that your emotions actually are exhausting.
Yeah. Well, what my body tells me, and I've been tired for 3 days straight now, and I broke out in the shingles. So what does that tell you? So shingles are the big
stressor.
Right. So that tells me that I'm a little stressed, still a little, but your body will tell you. Your body is what tells you, even if you're trying to suppress it, oppress your emotions, and not really get into that. Your body's gonna be the one to go, hey, you got an issue.
Yeah. Well,
hey.
And transition. So you're in the middle of a transition, and I mean, we can talk about the components of it, but typically the number one is fear. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the real big stressor is the fear of the unknown.
Yeah, I'm scared.
Yeah, sure.
I'm scared.
But
I'm not real
that's not,
scared.
I
But I'm
mean, but
a little
don't beat
scared.
yourself up because you're scared, because that's actually a natural survival instinct,
Yeah.
right? I mean, God gave us fear for our own survival.
Yeah.
So it's just learning
Well,
to manage it.
Here's what's keeping me sane, so to speak, is that I know that if I make this move, this transition, and it doesn't work out, I can move back.
Yeah.
You know, people think that they're so definitive in their decisions. They think that they're defined by that one decision and that they're stuck there. They're not.
Right.
Like, you're not stuck. Like, you can make this crazy transition. It's going to cost you money and it's going to cost you, whatever, but you can move back. Like, if it doesn't work out for me and I feel like, oh, okay, this is not working, guess what? I can move back.
So you know what a mulligan is?
I don't. I've heard that term before. I really do not know.
That's a golf term, like when you screw up your shot.
I thought a mulligan was like we scratch your, like, do that little noogie thing.
That's
no?
a noogie. A mulligan in golf is when you like do a terrible shot and you get a do-over.
Oh.
So life is full of mulligans.
Okay.
Right? So you get do-overs. So that's,
do-overs. Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
But that's what's so good. I feel like I'm pretty open-minded as into since I was a ex-military wife. We used to move every 2 to 3 years. So I got used to leaving. And I'm so sorry, Stephen.
Well, you know what they say? Moss don't grow on a rolling stone.
Moss don't grow on rolling stones. You're right. I'm a rolling stone. That's for sure.
Exactly. But Sandy's rolling.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing that I have to keep thinking of. Okay, this is not definitive. This is not my last decision, my last transition, my last move. This is the first of, well, not the first. I mean, it's obviously like the 20th time I've moved, So I don't know why I'm so stuck on, oh my gosh, I hope I'm making the right decision.
Well, it's like when my, friends overseas kind of want to slam on America, I remind them, I go, you guys do realize that this, our whole system was an experiment. Like the founding fathers were doing something that had never been done before.
Right? They didn't know how it was going to go.
Expect perfection out of the gate is so unbelievably naive,
and it didn't go well for them. I mean, if you look at the history of Jamestown, it wasn't.
I don't want to go down the whole history thing. My point is that they took a huge risk doing something that had never been done before, only on a whole national level, and it was an experiment, right? And so along the way, we keep modifying, right? In other words, we the times, the seasons, things change, and so we keep doing course corrections. So I mean, I think in your situation, that's exactly what you're doing. It's an experiment. It's like you have really no idea. There's no guarantee.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
No, there's no guarantee of anything,
and you're going to walk through it, and you'll just make course corrections as you're going.
Hopefully there'll be good decisions. And that's the good thing about wisdom is making sure that you're making decisions ahead of time. I'm not just jumping into this. Like, this is something I've been, working on.
Well,
so
but yes,
Kathy, I agree with you.
Around long enough to know that with God, you think you're going from here to here and you end up over there. Yeah. And it's all good. It's just you did like God is who's think you're going to do something for a certain reason, and God has a different idea. And so the truth of it is, it's like Abraham, just leave.
Yes.
Go.
Yes.
And then what happens along the journey, that's in God's hands.
Yes, it's in God. Well, it is. And that's the thing. As as long as I keep that foundation of, okay, God, I'm going to let you control this. Am I letting him control this? Am I the one, and that's what I've been wrestling with too. I'm like, okay, when you wrestle with God, that's a rough one.
Yeah, usually off with the limp.
Wrestling with God is not easy. Like, yeah. So I, you know,
Well,
I
you're
told him, I
wrestling
said,
with him, but
open the
you're also
doors that I
wrestling with
need
yourself.
opened. You know, I'm deferring. Open the doors that need to be opened. Shut the doors that need to be shut. And then I will know, you know, what way you're guiding me, you know? I mean, I don't even know why I had decided this. Like, I'm just like, okay, God, what, you know, I mean, it wasn't like, I don't know. The timing of it and everything is just kind of rolled. It doesn't make sense to me in a way. I've been trying not to overanalyze it up here, because sometimes God moves you for a reason. You just don't know why, you know, and the timing that you don't know why. So,
and sometimes he spits you out.
Yeah.
With Jonah, you know.
Okay, Jonah. Oh Lord.
So
I don't want to be a Jonah.
there were situations in my life that I you know, I was being immovable.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing I know, there was dynamite underneath me and I was being blasted out. And you're like, okay, I hear you.
That's how he does sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes he's gentle,
you know,
little voice, and sometimes he's the big booming. Why do I keep thinking this? Why am I, you know, why, you know, when you say why, you know,
well,
he never gives you a real reason. He just,
here's part of the reason why you don't know the why.
I don't know the future.
The problem is that we always think we know better than God. So often what happens is if he tells you this is the direction you go, and you go, okay, I got it. And we come up with all these plans and ideas, right? And we, and I got this, God. You know what I mean?
I got this. No.
And then suddenly what you know, the path you took thinking that you were pursuing God, suddenly you crash and burn and go, huh? You know? So I was just having this conversation yesterday with Mike Jones, you know, about some situations in my own life where there were some doors that were opened extraordinarily. Like I'm talking about supernaturally, right?
Right.
And I pursued them with the same passion and fervor that is characteristic of me, only to realize in hindsight, I went too far. Right?
You went ahead of God.
Enthusiasm, my momentum.
You went ahead. Yes.
Went way down the road. And now I'm having to do what? Course corrections and back some things up and go, oh, I was only, you know, I was supposed to go in this direction only to this point. And I blew right through, right? Because I was, you know, I mean, it wasn't like I was being rebellious. I thought I was being obedient. Like I thought I was pursuing, you know, obediently what God had put in front of me. And it's turned out that I like, you know, it's kind of like a car. You know, you punch the gas and you're going 100 miles an hour, and then suddenly there's a stop sign and you can't stop. You just go skidding through the thing, you know. So yeah, so I'm in the middle of some course corrections at the moment because I just blew through too fast.
You hit some roundabouts now.
Yeah.
Now you're at the roundabouts.
Well, but you got to slow down to get around the roundabout.
Yeah. Well, now you're hitting the roundabouts.
Right. See, you know, I have a strength, and my strength is my intensity, right? Because it's like you give me something to do, and I'll get it done.
Oh
right?
Yeah.
Hell or high water, you are not going to stop me from getting it done.
Right.
That doesn't work real well when you're supposed to put on the brakes.
No, and God learned with me. He of course he knows me already, but he won't tell me anything until the last minute because he knows me. He's like, Sandy, you're going to run with this. If I give you this, you're running with it ahead of me, and that's not going to help you. And he knows this because I've proven that.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say earlier. It's like you think you're going over here and then you end up over there. And the reason you didn't know over there is he wasn't going to tell you because what you would have done
no way.
was
You're
not
gonna run
the way
with this
he wanted you to get there.
Right. Right. But that is a place of, like I've wrestled, when I'm saying I'm wrestling with God, I mean, I'm wrestling with knowing his voice versus mine.
Yeah.
Sometimes am I making this decision with him or without him?
Right.
Am I doing this, thinking he's in it and he's not, like you were saying, like exactly what you're saying. Is he in it or not?
Well, he can be in it, but in my case, he was in it, except for he wasn't in it as far as I went.
Right.
It's hard. He can be in it, but up to a certain point, and then it's you go past what I call the grace zone, right? You're suddenly went out of the bubble, and you're out here, and you're like, "Where'd you go, God?" It's like, well, I didn't tell you to go over here,
right? Well, I like what Stephen said earlier. Stephen, you said sometimes I liked. Okay. I think God uses everything to talk to us. I really do. I think he uses people. He uses
circumstances.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've seen something flash on the screen one time and went, whoa, I know that was from God, Okay. I'm not sure where Stephen's going with, I guess that's his story. So, nice to see you, Stephen. Your first time on our show. So yeah. So I've been exhausted, and I think it's because of what we're talking about. Exactly what we're talking about. And I'm admitting it. And that's not easy for me. I'm not a good admitter of that.
What that tells me?
I'm Miss Happy whatever, right? So for me to be authentic and admit that I'm struggling with this, is
well, guess what I discovered this morning?
What's that?
About you.
What?
You're a human.
Oh my God.
I didn't realize. I thought you were like a goddess or something.
He thinks I'm
realizing you're a human.
I thought I was an alien.
How unbelievably ordinary you are.
Ordinary. Sorry, everyone.
No, I mean, you're ordinary. Like, welcome to the human life, My God,
Darn
I thought you were like one of those Catholic saints whose feet never touch the ground.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Oh, don't ever put me in that category. Oh my goodness.
Your halo's tilted.
It's tilted. I have a tilted halo, no doubt.
Wow, you're human. No, but it is.
Welcome to humanity.
It's true.
Finally, you all know she's got, a lot of them
messy.
do anyway.
It's just messy.
It's messy.
Yeah,
it is. And life can be, but there's where you just stay on your course, which you could take detours like you're talking about, or you blow past the stop signs. We make mistakes.
Yeah,
we make mistakes, and we recorrect, and we ask other people for advice and wisdom, and that's important. Me being authentic right now is therapy to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm saying, hey, I'm struggling. I don't know why. Why?
I mean, if you think about it, though, I mean, changing locations in the modern world compared to 100 years ago is a completely different dynamic. You know what I mean? So changing locations, I mean, I'm just trying to give you a little encouragement here. I mean, changing locations in the modern world, well, it's a hassle because you got to pack up your stuff and move it. It's really easy to get it back here, right? This isn't wagon train day. You know what I mean?
No,
this isn't gonna, you're not leaving Virginia headed, to San Francisco on a 6-month journey fighting Indians and everything.
I know. Right? I know. Look how easy I had it. I got a pod in Virginia, moved it here. Now I'm getting a pack rat. So taking my pack rat.
For me, the thing about moving, the reason I hate I just hate the inconvenience of it. Like, I just hate packing my stuff up. You know what I mean? And unpacking it.
It does give you that whole, oh my gosh, I have too much stuff.
Yeah.
And I got to get rid of this stuff. And this stuff doesn't mean anything. I mean, I have antiques of my my grandparents and stuff that obviously I'm not going to get rid of. But,
Mm.
you know, like books. I mean, I have books coming out my ears. You know, I love books. And
Mm.
it's like I'm having a problem parting with those because I'm afraid that eventually like the internet's going to crash and then I'm going to need those books. Like
Right.
like in my head, that's what's there. Like,
well, it's like men, you know, we men, you know, especially when you're a homeowner, you know, it's like you say, you know, something falls apart and you save all the other pieces because someday you know, you're
Yes.
going to need that
Believe
piece.
it or not, I have tools and camping things that I'm like freaking out that I don't want to get
Yeah,
rid
it's
of.
like someday, right? Well, then, you know, then you move and, you know, and it's 20 years later and you never even knew you had that thing. You went out and bought another one at the hardware store and you're like, why did I even save that? So,
Well,
yeah.
okay. Steven says you can mail in your books into a website online if you search for it and they turn them into PDFs. Well, okay. But what if
Well,
my
that
internet
depends on what kind of
crashes?
books he's talking about, you know. But
Huh.
yeah, you know,
I
books are
I
sort of
didn't know you
out,
could do that.
you know, the younger generations aren't reading books. So
I love books.
I know.
I'm the weird one. Okay. Okay. Let's just say I'm the weird one that likes to smell books.
No, book readers love they're tactile. They, you know, they have to
I have to do
turn a
it.
page, you know what I mean? But it's again, remember our children have grown up in a world of electronics.
They
So,
sure have.
you know, the whole idea of a book, you know, because
No, my
you know, I
son,
was
my
that
oldest
kid.
son, he's a book person like me. Thank God.
But again, remember how we grew up, right?
Yes.
Television was just coming into you, right? So there was no internet. So for a guy like me who was insatiably curious about history, I would go to the library at school and I would check out a book, right?
Right.
About, you know, I learned all about Abraham Lincoln and Robert E. Lee at Appomattox. You know, I learned about the Revolutionary War, but because they had children's books that told those stories. They were called You Were There With. And it was this first thing. And so, you know, and that's how you learn. Like you took adventures, you know, it's like Japan was, you know, was such a big part of the World War II generation.
Wow.
So we all grew up hearing about Japan, but what do people in Japan look like? You know, what is, you know, right? Well, how did you discover that? Books. Right. So our generation, we discovered the world through books. Our kids discovered the world through.
Yeah. Do they know what the Dewey Decimal System is?
No, but I'm just saying our kids are visual. Our kids grew up with images. That's why Instagram is such a big deal with that generation, because everything they grew up was electronic moving pictures.
Right. Right.
That's their normal. My grandkids, you know what I mean? It's like they just, you know, they just think everything's a movie.
Yeah.
You know, the little guys, I mean, this is hilarious. The little guys were at my house. So you know what they wanted to watch?
What?
YouTube.
Oh, yeah. That's what Nate, I babysat last week and that's what he wanted to do. He said, turn on YouTube.
I mean, I had no idea. I just thought YouTube was like news story, whatever. There's all these, you know, teenagers and young kids, and they're just doing stupid stuff. You know, it's like, you know, one guy's trying to cut through steel with a torch while another guy's trying to cut through a block of ice with a chainsaw. And, you know, my grandsons are like fascinated because, you know, who's going to win? And, you know, and guys are being stupid. And you're just like, wow, that's entertainment.
Well, we were watching a kid, a teenager playing Fortnite, which I was like,
when I grew up, when I was,
I'm confused. Why are we watching a YouTube of a kid playing the game? And that's entertainment. I don't understand.
I know, because, well, they want to know how to, you know, so they can win. But I was thinking about them and their whole world and how they seeing it through YouTube. Because when I was their age, it was like, what are you doing in the house?
Yeah.
You know, my mom would be like, what are you doing
in the house?
Get out, right?
Right.
I mean, we lived in the woods.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, we were either at the baseball or football field, or we were in the woods in our tree fort that we had built. From scrap we'd stole from the guys that were building homes a few blocks away, right? But I mean, we just lived outside, you know? And so I was like, wow, this is so interesting. They're viewing the world through a screen. I viewed the world through either books or just
Right.
being outside all the time.
Yeah.
So, here we are, hunting for fossils along the river. I'm like, wow, this is me when I was their age. This is what we did, dug for fossils.
Exactly.
So it was encouraging. I was like, well, it's not a total loss here.
No, that's pretty good. They want to do that. But see, you're the one showing them to do that. That's
exactly.
So I like what Kathy said, though. Yeah, it's true. They don't do books. PIR squared. Pi R squared.
Yeah.
Yes. Pi.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The kids,
they don't know any of
come
that
up through visualization.
Crazy.
And so unless it's moving,
yes,
right, and colorful and has energy to it, like a book is boring. Now, thank God I have my oldest granddaughter who is 11. She loves to read, but she's that straight A student who kind of gets bored in school, because she just can do school with one hand tied behind her back.
Wow.
So books are her way. And the reason why is her mom won't let her on the iPad. You see?
Yeah.
So
and that, yes. I mean, I loved reading books young.
Well, see, Isabella's complaining because all her friends have cell phones. And my daughter Jessica is saying, no, you're not getting a cell phone. If you want to learn about life, read books.
Oh, good mom. Good mom.
So Isabella's an avid reader because of the fact that she doesn't have an iPad and a cell phone. So that's where Papa's cool.
They all have.
They come to my house and they can play on my iPad. But that's just, you know what I mean? That's a treat. Like it's a fun. Oh yeah, no, the little guys were doing Star Wars on my iPad yesterday.
You can be on the iPad for a half an hour.
Only at Papa's. See, Papa, Papa, you got to understand, Papa's like the Pope. He makes his own dispensations. Papa's house, the rules don't matter. So Mom doesn't let him drink soda, so they come to my house and power down sugar-free.
Well, I can't wait.
Weekend,
I can't wait till my granddaughter can do that when she comes.
And everybody knows, even my daughter laughs, because it's like you're so popular because they come over and they're on your iPad,
Well, yeah. So you have to have something special like that, right?
Exactly.
And take them fossil hunting.
And
That's
fossil
amazing.
Hunting, so
well, thank you for talking me through this today. I appreciate it.
All righty.
You brought my level up just a tad, knowing that I'm not crazy.
No, you're normal.
Darn it. Normal. Nobody's normal. It's okay.
If you were abnormal, you would just you and all your stuff would just be translated to Florida.
Oh yes.
See?
Yes. Yeah.
You could be like,
I wish I was.
I Dream of Jeannie and just nod your head and it would all be down there.
She was one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I used to watch all of those shows when I was young. But thank you, Stephen, for joining us, Kathy and Larry and everyone and Jason. I think what you guys are talking about, raising your children. Well, my son, I'm thankful, he's 30, but he likes to read books. He likes actual books. Like he has a bunch of them, just like I do.
Good.
I mean, I'm really, definitely. Oh, I like what Kathy says. Yep. Normal is a setting on the dryer. Exactly.
Good one.
Nobody's normal. Everybody's unique. And that's what's so amazing about this. But just getting the time to, a relationship with people is so important these days, for sure, and trying to see everybody's point of view too. I mean, I don't discount anybody by anything anymore. I take everybody at face value and what they, I want to learn from them. That's kind of been my thing lately. It's like, I may not agree with you, but I want to learn from you, I mean, being open-minded to do that with everybody is so important. And don't judge, lest ye be judged. So, just don't do it.
There you go.
But be safe in it. Be safe
Sandy.
in it. Huh?
So the wisdom of Sage Sandy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh boy. These days. So.
All right.
Thursday, yes. No, maybe.
I think so.
Yes.
I have
Okay.
to see how the week unfolds, but so far it's it's on.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So also if you are interested in ever being a guest and you want to come on, please private message our Awakenings Within inbox. I would love to speak with you. If you ever want to be a guest, we definitely, if you have something, you're an author, anything that you need to share with the world, we would like to see what you have to say. So
Alrighty.
anyway, all right. Thank you guys.
God bless.
Have a wonderful week. Many prayers out to you. Blessings to you for the week. And we will see you on Thursday. Thanks,
Alrighty.
Bob. I appreciate you. I did miss you. Just to let you know. I missed
Likewise.
you. All right. You guys take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.